Hello and welcome to the Times of India. I'm Neha Khanna. Donald Trump has done it again. Deeply offended by an advertisement. Yes, you heard it right. An ad. The US president has terminated all trade talks with neighbour Canada. The ad in question features former US President Ronald Reagan, who can be heard speaking negatively about tariffs. Trump has dubbed the ad fraudulent and defended his controversial tariffs, saying these are important for America's economy and national security. Trump, as usual, took to Truth Social, his social media platform, and wrote, "The Ronald Reagan Foundation has just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs." Trump goes on to say, the ad was for $75,000. They only did this to interfere with the decision of the US Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the USA. Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Well, I think what happened is one of the leaders in Canada was running ads in the United States on tariffs that took President Reagan's words out of context. Even the Reagan Foundation criticized them for it. But I have not spoken. I've been traveling since yesterday. I have not spoken to the foreign minister since then. But I mean, the president made his announcement that he's suspended any trade talks with Canada for now.
The court's decision represents the biggest test of Trump's presidential authority and signature economic policy, potentially forcing the US to refund billions collected in tariffs. Ever since Trump was re-elected to the White House this January, he has unleashed a massive trade and tariff war on the world, including India and some of America's other closest trading partners. Trump also imposed a 35% levy on many Canadian imports and separate tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminium and autos, prompting Ottawa to respond in kind. The two sides have been in talks for quite some time now on a potential deal for the steel and aluminium sectors. Those trade talks, as of today, stand cancelled. So what is this advertisement that has offended Trump so much? Earlier this week, Ontario Premier Doug Ford said an advertisement from his province with anti-tariff messaging had caught Trump's attention. Ford said, "I heard that the president heard our ad. I'm sure he wasn't too happy." And it turns out Ford was absolutely right. Donald Trump, known for his extremely thin skin, is clearly not amused. And it seems he has decided that Canada must be punished. The ad was made using old footage of former US President and Republican Ronald Reagan. It showed Reagan criticizing tariffs on foreign goods while warning that they caused job losses and trade wars in the long term. In this ad, Reagan can be heard saying, "When someone says let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes, for a short while, it works, but only for a short time. Over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs." When Ontario Premier Ford announced this ad, he said, "I'm a big Ronald Reagan fan. We're going to repeat that message to every Republican district there is right across the entire United States. Using every tool we have, we'll never stop making the case against American tariffs on Canada. The way to prosperity is by working together." Earlier, China's embassy in Washington also used a similar Reagan clip in a post on X to cast doubts on Trump's global tariffs. Ontario is Canada's most populous province and its largest regional economy, and has suffered the most as a result of the US tariffs. Premier Ford hit back at Trump's earlier tariff threat against Canada by saying he was willing to cut off power supply to the United States. He also described Washington's trade policies against Canada as having pulled a knife and yanked it into us, and called on US lawmakers to put pressure on Trump. Trump's sector-specific levies on Canadian goods include a 50% levy on metals and 25% on automobiles. These tariffs have hit Canada hard, forcing job losses and putting pressure on businesses. Meanwhile, the Ronald Reagan Foundation issued a statement on Thursday saying the ad by the government of Ontario was using selective audio and video of Reagan and that the foundation was reviewing its legal options. They said the ad misrepresents the presidential radio address by Reagan in 1987, and the government of Ontario did not seek nor receive permission to use and edit the remarks. The latest dramatic twist in relations between the North American neighbours comes just over 2 weeks after Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney visited Trump in the White House to seek a relaxation of stiff US tariffs. The sudden decision to end trade talks is certainly a blow to Canada and personally to Carney, and could further inflame trade tensions that have already been building between the two neighbouring countries for months. More than 3/4 of Canadian exports go to the US, and nearly $2.7 billion worth of goods and services cross the border daily. Interestingly, on Thursday, the Canadian Prime Minister said Canada will not allow unfair US access to its markets if talks on various trade deals with Washington fail.
This decades-long process of an ever closer economic relationship with the United States is now over. And as a consequence, many of our former strengths as a country, former strengths more particularly as our economy, strengths based on close ties to America, have become our vulnerabilities. And as a result of that, the jobs of workers in our industries most affected by the US tariffs in autos and steel and lumber are under threat. And our businesses are holding back investments restrained by the pall of uncertainty that's hanging over all of us. Our relationship with the United States will never again be the same as it was, even though in this new world of protectionism, we have the best trade deal of any other country, and we're working to make it even better still.
This is the second time Trump has said he is ceasing trade talks with Canada. The first time was earlier this year after Ottawa announced it would impose a digital services tax on US technology firms. When Canada rescinded the tax, the White House said Prime Minister Carney had caved to pressure from Trump. Trump has weaponized tariffs in recent months and used them as leverage on many countries around the world. The Republicans' trade war has increased US tariffs to their highest levels since the 1930s. He regularly threatens more duties, sparking concerns not just among governments around the world, but also private businesses and economists, many of whom have warned that Trump's trade and tariff wars could slow down the global economy.